The best trauma to work out, to connect, if you want to connect with your own self, birth trauma. Somewhere which has occurred between 0 to before you leave to the home. The moment the doctors cut the umbilical cord, the baby is forced to breathe through the nose. Okay. But before the breath takes place, what happens is amniotic fluid in the lungs is not taken out. So the baby has to struggle to take the first breath, and the first breath will be very painful, and this is registered in the subconscious. Breath is pain. The moment we hear about breath work, we immediately connect with pranayama. Is there any impact on your day to day life, especially on your emotional part? No, they'll be the same. When we talk about breathing, one thing which involves in breathing is the diaphragm. Whenever we face any trauma, especially we would have faced lots of trauma during the childhood days, and the entire trauma gets stored in and around the abdomen. Healing is nothing like healing isn't moving forward, it's moving inward, meeting the wound with deeper awareness. So every time you meet the same wound with more deep awareness, that's healing.
Hello, Gomathy. Hi, Indu.
Hi Meena, hi Indu. I'm fine. How about you?
All good. We are very excited to have you on this podcast, and we'll jump in straight away.
Yeah. First of all, before starting the conversation or interview, whatever, I thank both of you for giving me such a wonderful opportunity to talk about breathwork.
We are more happy to have you here because breathwork is something that is, I haven't gone fully into it. So I think this would be a good understanding for not just for me, but even for our audience as well to understand how far the breathwork is actually going to help them in their emotional regulations and what are other benefits that one can experience through this. So, yeah, welcome to our Wellbeing in Me podcast, committee. Really happy to have you here.
Yeah, so to start with, what is breathwork, Gomathy? Can you start with the basics, please?
The moment you hear about breath, what do you think? Especially in India, okay, being a spiritual land, the moment we hear about breath work, we immediately connect with pranayama. Okay, if you go and ask someone, do you know breath work? Yeah, I've been doing pranayama daily on a regular basis, 10 to 15 minutes. Is there any impact on your day to day life, especially on your emotional part? No, they'll be the same. Okay, so breath work is tremendously a way it differs from pranayama. Pranayama is a set of exercise to regulate your breathing to improve the capacity of lung. Okay, when we talk about breathing, one thing which involves in breathing is the diaphragm. Okay, and this diaphragm determines whether we are doing a shallow breathing or a deep breathing. Normally, most of the human beings on a daily basis we do only shallow breathing. Okay, because we have lots of things emotionally to encounter in day to day life. But where does this shallow breathing comes? That is where breath work enters into the picture. Okay, whenever we face any trauma, especially we would have faced lots of trauma during the childhood days, and the entire trauma gets stored in and around the abdomen. Okay, it restricts the flow of and the movement of diaphragm, and hence a breathing shifts into a shallow breathing. So, before getting into pranayama, before working on the capacity of the lung, the first groundwork that every human should do is on the breath work, moving the diaphragm. So, in breath work, there's no set of different exercises. We do only one technique called conscious connected breathing. With this technique, what we do is we bring out the suppressed emotions and feelings, making the diaphragm to move easily so that the breathing mechanism improves and we move into a deeper breathing. This is how breathwork differs from pranayama.
So, even when you say about shallow breathing, what is shallow breathing?
I never use my diaphragm. For example, see, you see the difference, okay? I'm breathing now.
Hmm.
Only my chest moves, okay? There's no other movement.
Ah,
In deep breathing, what happens is I take the breath, I engage my lung completely. This is the difference between shallow breathing and deep breathing. In deep breathing, I utilize my entire lung. Lung is again divided into three parts: base, mid part, and the clavicular region. Okay, in deep breathing, we engage the entire lung. In shallow breathing, we engage only a portion of the lung. And it differs, the portion differs from person to person, because this region is where we store all the feelings that we have acquired during the birth trauma. So for most of us, this part will not move, clavicular part will not move. Okay, for some who tends to suppress lots of emotion, they see movement only in their abdomen. Okay, and a few of people see movement in the mid part of the rib cage. Okay, so this is the difference where the emotion is stored, how it is affecting the breathing mechanism, how these corrections are brought through conscious connected breathing.
Didn't realize there will be so many differences just between shallow and deep breathing.
That's a good explanation about the shallow and the deep breathing. Now, I believe there is some misconception or the way we breathe in. As you mentioned, Gomathy, like we all do shallow breathing most of the time. And then when we talk about diaphragm breathing, is it like they breathing through the belly, or how would one know like, okay, I'm doing the diaphragm breathing and not the belly breathing? Like how would they know that?
It's a good question. Yes, yes. Thanks, Indu. See, normally when we breathe, the breath should go and hit the brain. It should open the centers of the brain. Okay. But our breath is restricted either to this chest level, or it happens only in the abdominal level, where the breath doesn't reach the brain at all. If the breath reaches the brain, it touches the centers of the brain, or otherwise I'll put it in this way. Okay, there are three main, when you talk about the nervous system, we are in the uh, closed mode, or we are in the flight or fight mode, or we are in the relaxation mode. When the breath touches the brain, you are in the relaxation mode. When it touches like chest level, you are in the fight or flight mode. Okay, when it happens only in the belly, I don't see any movement of breath or air in any part other than belly, you are in the dorsal mode.
Right. The question that comes to my mind now is, if one is doing their breath work and say they are clearing their emotions or the traumas that they've been holding, like do they now automatically see the change in the way they breathe? Will it be like then they can see the movement, or is it through practice they can actually build that muscle of how they can breathe in the like the conscious connected breathing type?
See, whenever person comes to breath work, in the first session, he will see the changes. He will start the release happening. Not even first session. After taking conscious connected breathing, within a matter of few minutes, he will start releasing all these suppressed emotions and feelings. But for the breathing mechanism to get corrected, for the diaphragm to move freely, it will take another 3 to 4 sessions.
Right. Right. Okay.
And if he is with a therapist for 10 sessions, he'll be able to handle his own emotions. Whenever there is a stronger emotional output, okay, he will know how to handle the emotions.
When you were explaining, I was really trying out, shallow breathing and then deep breathing and all of that. But it feels like to be constantly be in a deep breathing mode, it's hard.
Okay. Meena, there's like two breathing happens. Okay. One is external breathing and the other is internal breathing. Either you call it as voluntary and involuntary. If you correct your involuntary breathing, you can drop your voluntary breathing. Okay. So in order to correct your involuntary breathing, you have to train your voluntary breathing. That is what we do in breath work. We consciously connect the breath. See, in normal breathing, we have two pauses. Okay, you inhale, you pause, and then you exhale. Okay, this is normal breathing. But here we train the muscles in breath work. We consciously inhale, okay, without a pause, exhalation happens by itself. And before the exhalation completes, again we consciously inhale. So we train the breath to be connected so that the breath becomes circular. Okay. So when the breath becomes circular after a few sessions of training, automatically your involuntary breathing is also in the same rhythm. So your circulation, or you call, when it comes to the physical body, you call it as circulation. Okay. In yoga, you have different types like Vyana, Upana, Samana, everything is taken care. Once this connection is established, all the five prana is established and it is balanced and it is taken care. Only to achieve that we need sessions. So you can forget about your external breathing. It's not that like I have to constantly breathe. Your involuntary breathing, you are correcting your involuntary breathing. Why this correction is required is because the traumas are stored and there's no movement for the prana to flow. So in breath work, we remove those blockages and we allow the prana to flow.
Yeah, makes sense. I think when you say conscious connected, that automatically makes sense. But then when uh, maybe it's my ignorance, when there are different breathing techniques, for example, we have this box breathing where inhale for 4, pause, and then exhale, and then pause, So I thought the pause plays a important part, but when with conscious connected you are explaining it as continuously without a pause, so is there no purpose for the pause?
Yeah, there is a purpose, okay? See, every breathing technique is very, very important in life because it brings a minute difference in the alchemy of your breath, okay? So, before getting into all those holding pauses, we need to correct our breathing mechanism. You imagine, okay, my breath is only at the dorsal straight, okay, and I do box breathing. And I read a lot of benefits about box breathing, but I don't see anything in my life. I only religiously do box breathing on a regular basis. And at one point, what I will conclude, it's not working, right? Box breathing is not
Working, yeah.
working. They're like all these are false theory, okay? So anything before getting into any pauses or holding, for that matter, even holding is very strong. You need to correct your breathing. So breath work simply means healing your own breath.
Right. That's a very good insight, actually, because what you say makes a lot of sense for me now. Because when I do the box breathing, yes, you said like some most of the times I think I was doing it religiously, but I haven't seen. I wouldn't say I haven't seen at all, but there's a just very a minor shift, but not to the extent of that I have absolutely benefited from that type of breathing. But so what you're saying is the conscious connected breathing is that is the way of breathing, and then we do the other aspects of breathing which would make the impact that you are looking for. Beautiful. Following up with that, when you're talking about traumas, Gomathy, how would one know that my body is holding emotions, and that's what I need to realize, like what would be the awareness piece for them to know that my body is storing, like
Okay.
universally we can say like everybody holds some sort of trauma or
Okay.
emotions in their
Yeah.
body, but one can
Yes. Yes.
actually consciously, how can they realize that? Is there anything that we can be aware of?
Yeah, yeah. There are so many things to measure that your body is holding trauma. One is, are you comfortable with your body? First thing. Normally, if you are asked to sit in a position, that is what they call asana in yoga, will we be able to sit in a position for a longer duration? Say for 10 minutes with cross leg or on the chair, whatever it is. No, we tend to see myself. I'm sitting in this chair. Again, I'm going back to my school days where I tend to rotate my chair. Okay. Here, which means my mind is anxious. Okay. I'm just looking forward for the next questions. What does that mean? As going to ask? What is it in this going to ask? Whenever my mind is in movement, what happens? My body will not be in peace. It also moves with the flow of mind. When my mind is still, automatically my body is still. So, this is one way of measuring that your body is holding. The second is the first one, I wouldn't say trauma, the body goes along with the mind. Okay. Second one is whenever you do any activity, if there's no pain in your body, Yes, your body is fine. Is there any flexibility? Is your body listening to you? Is your body is at your command? If I want to sit, I want to sit. If I want to stand, I have to stand. I want to run, I want to run. Are you comfortable staying in your body? Okay. 99.9% we are not comfortable staying in the body. Can you answer me why? How? Not why. How? How I'm confidently saying that 99.9% of us are not comfortable staying in the body.
Is that yeah, definitely maybe the effect of trauma.
Yeah, however you put, we always tend to think, right? We always keep
Yeah,
thinking, thinking, thinking. We live only in the mind.
thinking,
We don't live in the body.
even the body,
Uh,
correct.
why? Because I'm not comfortable. Mind is not at all comfortable to come to the present moment. Mind cannot come to the present moment. Mind either it is in the past or it is in the future. Unless my body, I work on this, I make it very comfortable, mind comes and settles. It comes to the present moment. It requires a lot of training through breath and through physical movement as well. So, being a breathwork therapist, I will not vouch 100% it happens only through mind because mind and body are interconnected. It cannot be separated at all. So, you have to work on these two components.
So if I am like from my childhood days, I used to tap my feet quite a lot.
Uh, okay.
Like yeah, like all the time. And then at some point in my journey, I stopped doing that consciously because I felt like I wasn't sure whether my anxious mind was feeding that,
Hmm.
or if I continue doing the tapping, my mind was feeling restless also.
Hmm.
So it felt like it was a loop. I was going in a loop, and that's where I stopped doing it. And even sometimes now, it comes back, and then I have to consciously stop. Yeah, not do that. Just sit still. Still. Yeah, it's very challenging.
Yeah, Meena, you gave the answers. Okay, you said it is either I'm anxious or restlessness. Both is applicable and it comes out of trauma. Again, trauma, we all think something major happened in our life and that is defined as trauma. Nothing. Okay, trauma to be defined in a very simple way, in a layman term, any negative beliefs about yourself is called as a trauma. Okay, and where does all these negative beliefs starts? Because as an adult, I know I grew up in an environment, it's a positive environment. Okay, I went to a school, to a Christian missionary school where all disciplines were taught, where all good things were taught. But where does this negative beliefs comes? Okay, this is a big question that was haunting my mind. Okay, when I entered into breathwork, but to our surprise, all these happens between the age of 0 and 7, and what we think or what we discriminate good and bad is not good and bad at all. It varies from person to person how the mind perceives a situation. Okay, so what do masters, saints, and teachers call it as? Everyone comes with a big baggage. Okay, what is this baggage? Mind. Okay, mind is the baggage. Mind holds various trauma. To name a few, I can say birth trauma, parental disapproval syndrome, school trauma, unconscious death urge, past life trauma, senility, religious trauma, and very interestingly, we talk about environmental pollution through industries, okay, through vehicles. We also do pollution through our emotions. The thought and emotions that goes on the mind, that also emits negativity, and we also pollute the environment. So these many trauma together put in mind, you imagine how many negatives we are holding in the mind. Okay. And interestingly, why breath is only the breath available tool on this earth plane? Is there any other tool available to work on the mind? Let me not answer. Let me take the quote of Ramana Maharishi. He is the person who said, if you want to work on your mind, breath is the best tool because breath and tool are like the branches of the same tree. They come from the same source. So, whatever you have in your mind, there is an imprint on your breath which affects your breathing mechanism. So, to work on your, to heal your breath, you have to release those imprints from your breath. The more you work on your breath, you will get to know about your mind. What is that I'm storing? What is the pattern? Is this negative belief I have originated from my mind, or have I received it from my parents and grandparents? So to open this, where is it? It is everything is lying in the unconscious mind. Again, mind is divided into conscious, subconscious, and unconscious. Okay. So under your conscious, everything goes. But we are not aware. We are aware only what is consciously happening. Okay. You can recall your memory up to your school age. Beyond that, no. Can you recall any memory when you were in your mother's womb, where you heard or where you received the emotion of your mother?
But
Like there
some
are
say
persons, yeah, yes, Indu.
some say they can
Yeah,
actually remember
that's what
from the
I'm
past.
about to tell. Okay, there are persons who, when they enter into a theta state, okay, when the brain, again, brain has different frequencies, okay, starting from alpha, theta, delta. Right now, we are in beta state where we are aware of what is happening around us. Alpha is the relaxed state where we enter into sleep and we get into deeper states of the brain where we enter into theta. We can just recall any memory that is imprinted in the brain. But to enter into that state, one is relaxation is required, second is awareness. Okay, this awareness comes through breath.
So when you said you can know more about the mind through the breath, and because you are the breathwork, specialist and coming from that background, but when I think of my own journey, I have explored breathwork a little bit and also a little bit of pranayama and all of that. But then for me, it was predominantly through engaging with nature and flowers and trees and plants, and it was more connecting like that, and then building that self awareness and understanding myself and my mind. It was like that. But for example, like probably Hindu, maybe Hindu can add to it. For her it is from directly understanding about the mind through NLP and various timeline therapy and other mind related uh, modalities. Yeah. So how is breath the best one?
I mean, I was about to answer this question even if you wouldn't have asked, okay? See, all healing modalities available on this earth plane is good, okay? Because why we come to earth plane is only to evolve and raise our consciousness, and different masters have given different modalities. NLP is an excellent tool when it comes to rewire your brain. So all our habits patterns have been wired, and our work is only to rewire. Okay, I have rewired. Suppose if something is happening in your life which has already similar pattern has happened during your childhood days, when you can encounter the same trauma or the tragedy, whatever you call, without any of your emotions, then that healing modality is good. Okay. So you can rewire, you can work on yourself, you can understand your mind, especially through nature, because mind, it's an energy. Nature, again, when you talk about nature, it's a five element. The fifth element and mind are connected. The more you are with the fifth element, the more you will get to know about the mind. But have I released that emotional quotient from my memory? That is the question when it comes to breath work and other healing modality. So when I recall any of my tragedy or trauma, any very deep rooted incident that has occurred in my childhood days, if I encounter it without any emotions, without any crying, without any heaviness in the chest, yes, I have released and I'm able to face it with deep awareness. Okay, if any of the healing modality does it, yes, but breath work differs. Breath makes you to release those emotions which are attached to that incident. So it becomes only a memory. It will not affect your day to day life in terms of your physical and mental health. So here breath work is adding one extra thing is works on the emotional part by just releasing your suppressed emotions and feelings.
When you're talking about releasing the emotions, Gomathy, there are many women I've seen, like they like I'm not going to make it just others. Like even I, in the past, like we suppress the emotions. Not necessarily that's like happened in the childhood or anything. Like even in the day-to-day activities, like we don't want to express anything for any situational base or the family conditions. Then we then like, okay, let me not say anything, and then we suppress it, right? And eventually over the time I've seen many people, they go numb on their emotions, like they don't feel anything, they are very flat, like in the sense whether it's a happiness mood, they are very scared to be really happy about it because they feel something could happen. Yeah, it's one part of it, it's a limiting belief, like they feel that way. But how would one know, like if they've really become numb on their emotions, how would they even know that this is something that they need to work on and release it because they don't feel anything? And how, yeah, I understand breathwork would be the answer, but how one could approach on that? That's my question.
Into why talk about others, okay? Myself, okay? If you ask me how did I enter into breath work, I didn't have any major thing that shifted me, or breath work was a tool that rescued me. I don't have any story to talk about, okay? I was like a very normal kid. In fact, I didn't have any goal, or if someone asked me what would be your vision or ambition during my school days, for me, flow with life. That's all, okay? Everything, even till now I have the same, okay? I don't have any big visions or goal, okay? But at one point when you enter into your mid 30s and 40s, okay, that is when where you have to handle each and every relationship in your family, okay? As you said, into most of the time we suppress because for the benefit of the family. But where did we get this thought and feeling? It has been passed on by the family members from the society, because as a woman, we have to give importance to others. We have to suppress, not suppress in the sense, in the positive way, for the benefit of others. Okay. So I found out lot of emotional instability. I will not be stable at the emotional level. Sometimes I would go to my top. I will explode like anything. Sometimes I will become numb. Okay. And most of my behaviors here, you can measure only through your behavior. I always go for a validation with my husband, with my daughter, whether am I doing it right. Okay. Second is people pleasing. We tend to please everyone, okay? And people pleasing, validation, most of the time a sort of insecurity creeps in, okay? And when you are in that confusion, again there will be another label for women saying you are going under a premenopausal stage, okay, because of the hormonal imbalance. Okay, that is when I decided to work on myself. I was looking for various options. Meena, if you name any healing modality, I know what is that. I have gone into that, I have learned, I have experimented. But somewhere I wanted to connect with myself. I wouldn't say, rather connecting with myself at one point for an escapism. See, normally that is where spirituality jumps in. Okay, when you talks about spirituality, to me at that point it was an escapism. So I was miserably seeking to connect with divine. So I thought the moment I connect with the divine, I'll be able to handle things. Okay, so I was like in a constant questioning, questioning, questioning. And in meditation, the answer was breath. Through breath, you can connect with the divine. That's how my journey into breath work started. Okay. And being an emotional child, from my childhood, I was in an environment where it was like highly emotional, right? From the parents, siblings. I was staying with my aunt, uncle. It's like a very joint family, a kind of emotional environment. Okay, so with this, I entered into breath work. Okay, I never, what to say, I didn't experiment or anything. I was just only in the reach to connect to connect to the divine, to connect to the divine. I missed the process, what is happening internally. Okay, till 2017, I learned breath work. Till COVID, okay, came, I didn't touch breath work. I thought breath work is only to connect with the divine. And during the COVID, I opened breath work for everyone because breath to some extent works on the lungs and it helped the COVID patients. Okay, at one point I realized that there was a shift happening in my emotional front. I was able to handle things in a balanced way. And even till now, I am only in the process. I will not say breathwork has completely transformed me, has taken me to the other side. Because what is the transformation I am seeing is every time I move into my childhood days, the same the same scenario, I am facing it without any emotions. I am able to accept it. I am able to accept my parents. I am able to accept my situation. Finally, I found all these things is I haven't connected with my own self. Okay, that is the missing part. So, if you would say how it is going to help women is, I will not guarantee, I will not talk about they will be transformed, nothing. The moment they connect with themselves, they will know what is they have to do in their life, they will find the life purpose. They can handle the family, they can handle themselves in a better way. So all those relationships are only trigger points, or in terms of Buddha, they are all only the teachers. They have come to show you the lesson that you need to learn. So this is the one thing which I got from breathwork, connecting with own self. So the moment to connect with yourself, you have to enter into a space where you don't judge people. You should drop judgment, because once you lose your emotions, your heart center will open. Okay, when your heart center opens, you will have only love for everyone, because you can empathize what the other person is undergoing. I cannot blame my mother-in-law saying like she is rude, she is behaving like this. No, now I can empathize what makes her to behave this way. What is the trauma or the incident that she's still holding in her memory? Because out of some insecurity only we behave. Okay, ego is always backed up by negative, and the ego comes and plays only to hide all those things. So this made me to understand what others are undergoing, because earlier I was very rude, upfront. I talk on people's face, and I wouldn't say like there was a good relationship. People like me, but they'll never want me to keep with them. Okay, that much rude I was. But of late, I'm seeing that like everything is mellowing down. I can understand people. I'm able to guide others. In that way, I'm so happy. Yes, people come to me, they ask for their help. Okay, all these things only through breath I have got. So, in that way, for any women, when they connect with their own breath, they will know about their own emotions. Because again, it is ego. If my husband or my sister or my mother comes and say, "You are angry, you're so rude," I will not accept it. But when I work internally, when I get connect with my own breath, when I open up my baggage, I'll get to know about myself. Then this will gives a sort of smoothness to accept, to rebuild, to connect with yourself. So this is the best part of breath work.
So, when you talked about baggage, Gomati, did you mean baggage from 0 to 7, or is it from before?
Before, past lives, we carry it from past lives. And connected to this, we have a baggage full of lots of trauma. The best trauma to work out, to connect, if you want to connect with your own self, birth trauma, somewhere which has occurred between 0 to before you leave to the home. Okay, that is so vulnerable. Okay, that birth trauma sits here, sits in your jaws. Okay, that is why most of the people will not be able to express. Why women suppress a lot. And of late, if you see any person who does mouth breathing, okay, if they have anything with their jaw issue like TMJ or something related to this area, it is because of birth trauma. And the technique I follow is called rebirthing breathwork. The founder of this technique, Leonard Orr, he was focusing only on birth trauma. The moment you work on birth trauma, you release the birth trauma, you will connect with your own self.
Actually, when you said TMJ and joy, it's me.
Even me.
Sorry, what was the age group? Did you say the birth trauma, Gomathy?
During the hospital time, okay, somewhere like born and before leaving to home.
So you mean to say the when the child is in the moment of coming to the earth, the trauma happens at
Yes,
that point
yes,
of time is what you're talking
yes,
about.
exactly. Yeah, I'll explain it to you. Actually, now the mother is ready to deliver and the baby is also ready to come out to this world, okay? The first thing, if it is through vagina, it has to go through a dark space. That is where the fear of darkness comes in. The moment the baby comes out, what happens is the baby is taken and they immediately cut the umbilical cord. Okay, and the baby is exposed to an environment, a totally different environment from the womb. Inside the womb, it was very cozy. Okay, it was not that much light. Okay, it was very comfortable. But the moment it is exposed to light, too many sounds. Okay, high sensitivity, and what happens is uh, if you see deep breathing, one of the reason why people don't do deep breathing is it is also the moment the doctors cut the umbilical cord, the baby is forced to breathe through the nose. Okay, but before the breath takes place, what happens is amniotic fluid in the lungs is not taken out, so the baby has to struggle to take the first breath, and the first breath this will be very painful, and this is registered in the subconscious. Breath is pain. So how it is registered? In the form of feelings, because it is a pre-verbal part. Okay, anything which happens between 0 to 3 is a pre-verbal. There's no language, nothing. Everything will be stored in the form of feelings, and your subconscious is nothing but pure feelings. So it is already written that breath is equal to pain. That is why in breath work most of the people only come for few sessions, because they find it difficult to breathe, because they have to break that subconscious pattern. To get into that pattern, either they'll not have patience, or this fear of pain, they'll avoid it.
That's very yeah, interesting to know. So, which means even before any limiting beliefs have started, like from the age of 0 to 7, I think we are actually coming out in this world in some sort of fear or a pain that's registered in our subconscious mind.
Yeah.
So, which means then inevitably, I think everybody has to work on themselves, regardless of what they go through in their life, because there's some foundation that's already been laid as we are born, right? And what is the duration? So, why especially from hospital to home? Is there any connect? Is there anything?
No, no, it is a continuous process, but everything happens like during at that time. See, I told you only one part, okay? After coming, the baby is separated from the mother. Okay, you imagine 9 months being with the mother, and suddenly it is separated and it taken to a different space. Fear of separation. Okay, added to that, how doctors handle the baby. Okay, the first thing which registers into the baby is this earth plane is not suitable for me to live, because it's like too much sound, light, sensitive to all the senses. Okay, so the first feeling it goes is this earth plane is not suitable. That is why you cannot work on your immortality. Okay, at one point you will have to leave this earth plane, and this feeling, if it is very strong, if the baby was treated very badly at that time, it is a very strong feeling deep rooted in the subconscious, which turns as unconscious death urge. Any accidents on road or any fall you have in life, it is because only of this subconscious death urge, nothing else. See, body holds everything in the form of vibration, okay? And how we all work is, you might know that we come under certain laws, and one is law of attraction. Everybody goes, okay, but only certain people meet with accidents. Why? Because they have attracted. And the same is applicable in relationship as well. I don't have any right to talk about my husband is bad, my mother in law is bad, my daughter is bad. Who has manifested? It's me who has manifested them in my life. So, if I want to change someone, First, I have to change myself. That's what Mahatma Gandhi said. So everything starts here. If you ask me one word, what would you say if someone wants to enter into breath work, or if they want to transform, or if they want to see, get into the deeper part of the life? Stop the blame game. Take responsibility. How would you take responsibility? Working on your breath. The more you connect with your breath, the more you heal your breath, the more you heal your patterns, you understand yourself, then you will be moving inwardly. So, in simple term, healing is nothing like healing isn't moving forward, it's moving inward, meeting the wound with deeper awareness. So every time you meet the same wound with more deep awareness, that's healing. That 100% breath work gives you.
So, what happens in a session which gives them this awareness?
Okay. So first, whenever a person comes to the session, first we'll teach
Mm.
them the technique. Okay. It's a very simple technique, Meena. You have to consciously inhale. No work on exhalation because exhalation will happen by itself. But before the exhalation settles down, you have to inhale and then exhalation happens by itself. So there is a rhythm in your inhalation and exhalation. First, the person will learn the rhythm, and the entire process will be done only in lying position. Okay, the person is not supposed to sit and do the breath work. Once they get into the lying position, once they learn the technique, the focus will be on in setting the rhythm. Once they set the rhythm, they will activate it, because the blockages that we carry, everything is in the form of energy, and we all know that only a diamond can cut the diamond. So in order to push this energy blockages, I need more energy. So I develop this energy in the rhythm and activation. So when the prana picks up, when there is more prana, what happens is everything will start surfacing, and it will be in the form of sensation like tingling, numbness, heat releasing from your body, cold. Sometimes fingers might go like this. This is called tetany. Okay, it will go like this. So, or body becomes restless, you cannot, you will start tapping your body, pain releasing out, pain surfacing. Any pain is an excellent outcome, because all those are unresolved emotional trauma lying deep rooted in the subconscious. So once this prana gets activated, everything from the subconscious, everything comes out as a pattern. But for a client to understand all these things in a first session, it will be difficult because the sensation will be too much for them to handle. So they'll be focusing only on that. And as a therapist, we will encourage them to maximize the sensation. But after a few sessions, they know, they will be aware of the thoughts running in the mind. At the same time, they'll be able to connect with the breath. And after the session, we enter into a relaxation phase where you have to be with the body and the body will bounce back. During the time when you are with the sensation, some memories will open up, some learnings will be there. So they will integrate all those things, and it's like a sort of meditation. When they enter into a relaxation phase, it will be more like a meditative phase where they will get to know about things, where they will perceive things in a different perspective, and they will correct themselves. After the session, they'll have lots of energy, there'll be no pain in the body, and some internal cleansing would have happened.
So, when you talk about energy, yeah, definitely understand breath definitely builds energy. So, for example, let's say someone has done a lot of inner work
Mm.
by reflecting on themselves, and let's say they are doing journaling and whatever, like whatever method they follow. Yeah, they do all of that. So, when they add, let's say, the breath work on top of it, would it be helpful to accelerate the process? Is that how it will complement, or?
Yes, Mina, you're right. Yeah, it will accelerate the process. Those are the persons, they'll get connected with themselves easily, immediately, without any effort, because already they have spent time on their reflection, journaling, and all those things. The only part is releasing it from the breath. Though they release the emotional part from the breath, and it'll be a very smooth ride for them to connect with themselves.
So it's like more like releasing that emotional
Exactly.
charge. That's what you mean when releasing the emotions.
Yes.
So if we think we have already addressed that by releasing our emotions, by whatever we are following it, the body, is this like you have mentally released it, but breath is like to release it from the body? Is it like that?
So where all these traumas get stored is the interesting part is the nervous system. The nerves holds all these feelings and imprints, okay? And how do I
Mm.
know that even after doing all those reflection, journaling, am I in the right path? You have to see how is your nervous system, how is your physical health, okay? That you can check. The best thing is, are you in this alpha state of relaxation throughout 24 bar 7? Whether you are in a relaxed mind approaching the life, or you are going like, okay, sometimes I'm in a relaxed state, but sometimes like emotions surface out. So these are the things where you need to measure yourself, whether you have released it or you have to get into breath work. No, like I am okay. Even without breath work, the other modalities have helped me. I am in this alpha state throughout. Yes, then breath work is not required.
Right. So, for anyone to release the emotions from their body, like as what Meena asked, like, they have worked on their part to a certain level and then they want to see, like, I haven't done any breath work and I am not really sure whether my emotions are stored, but to my understanding, I believe I have worked it. So, if I have to put myself in the test, um, when it releases, like as you mentioned, you can feel the tingling. Is that all it indicates, that the emotions that are stored in the body is being getting released? Or is there, like, how can one then know that, okay, now I have really actually worked on both my mind and my body? Is it going to take a long
Yeah,
time?
yes, it will.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good, good. See, physically, all these things happens, okay? Tingling and whatever sensations you talk, that has released physically. But mentally, you are the one who has to measure your what is happening internally. See, the best thing is, are you reacting or are you responding? If you are reacting, then still you are holding on. If you are responding, then the release has happened mentally.
Amazing. That gives a lot of clarity, isn't it? Yeah. So, with is there anything else you would like to address, Gomathi? We are coming to a close.
Okay. So, being this first session with you, uh, I have just spoken only about the emotional part. Whenever you open or you talk about breath or breath work, it's like a ocean. Okay, you can keep talking about many things. Okay, leave alone all these outcomes, emotional. First of all, one will be interested to know about the trauma that we are holding in the mind. What is birth trauma? What is parental disapproval syndrome? And many things. Very quite interesting. Okay, all these has been wired at your early stage. That's what NLP talks about. All you need to is you have to rewire and you have to again wire yourself. That is the only work. Only to do that work we have come here. But forgetting about all these things, we engage, we make our living on a day-to-day basis, like running after something else. Okay, so if you are interested to know about, or if your audience are very much keen to know about what is the other traumas, how it is wired, why my behavior is like this, why this pattern is repeating in my life, we can talk more about those things in the upcoming podcast, provided if you give me an opportunity.
Definitely. Yeah, it is really interesting to know and about the different type of traumas and how what we are holding. And I believe one can never say that I have worked on myself. I think it's a work in progress for our entire life. So nobody can say I have worked it all and I'm really 100% good state. Yes, we have moved from the previous stage to whatever we are at today. So that was a very interesting conversation and a lot of learning as well for me personally. Gomathi, if people have to do something to start with, even before they approach you, my next question is, how can they approach you for them to learn or to undergo the breathwork sessions with you? What is it? And even before then, at home, is there anything that they can do for them to be more aware of themselves?
Okay. So when it comes to breath work, we don't give upfront to practice any tools because they have to be under a guidance of a therapist. Okay, that is point number one. Point number two, I have no social media, Insta, website to promote myself because I think this tool has to reach to certain people who are in need and they will automatically get connected with myself. Okay, I am not on the marketing and I'm not a person on that side, on that front, marketing and see, one thing what I saw here is any program, any healing modality, whenever they talk about the healing modality, they come under a selling program where they say, today, the offer is today, you have to, if you sign in, you will get the best offer, otherwise, you will miss the offer. Okay, but as a mind therapist, I know everyone has fear in it. Okay, I don't want to again induce a fear in any individual saying you are going to miss out if you're not doing breath work, that's all, your life is finished. No, I am not going to induce that fear. I am here to only release those fear. So there's nothing, no, in case if someone is asking you to know more details, does she has any website or any Insta or any social media post? No, I don't. Okay. Third is my number is available and I don't take any person directly into the process. First, I give them a trial session, okay? Because they have to be comfortable with the breath, they have to be comfortable with the therapist, and the healing space should be brought in, connected between them and myself, okay? Only if these things happen, then I will turn the session into a therapeutic session and a paid one. So this is how I follow. And you can share if anyone is interested, or you can bring a group of members if they are interested. I can give them a trial session for them to experience what is breath work.
Yes, and I have done that. I have recently attended Gomathy's trial, and it was mind blowing. It was electrifying experience, I would say. I'm definitely keen to go back and release more from my body, because sometimes I feel like my body is still holding, even though I think I have mentally released a lot, but I don't think my body has fully released it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the part where you said, like, I'm not going to induce any fear by saying the offer is gone. In the commercial world, it's called FOMO, like fear of missing out. And when
Yeah.
people, they tend to fight for it, and or they are like, oh, I don't have a chance to do it. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I think so. The only way for them to contact you is through a trial session, and you would be sharing your contact details with us. So then they can approach you on that.
Yes.
Perfect, perfect. Personally, Gomathi, I have learned quite a lot. And yes, personally, I haven't like done any breath work except for a few of the breathing techniques that box breathing or 4-6-8 kind of a thing. But I haven't actually sat in a breath work to release on the emotions aspect. So definitely, I would approach you on this, and I believe the viewers who have listened to this, they would have had a lot of insights and understanding about the different traumas, because in reality we haven't heard of those many traumas that you've listed. It's like, okay, when we talk about childhood traumas, for me it was like from 0 to 7, and not necessarily like it's from the birth time, and how the fear of darkness and the fear of separation and all those things added up. So that was a real insightful thing for me. So thank you, and definitely we will have another session very soon, another episode very soon. Thanks for joining us. Amina, do you have any?
Yeah, like I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. It was very insightful. Lot of things to learn newly, like yeah, the variety of trauma, and even when you think you have healed, how body can hold. All that was amazing. And having experienced it as well, I can relate more to what Gomathi is explaining here. Actually, I have more questions, like not only in the trauma space, but also uh, what does karma has to play in the breath work, and all those kind of brilliant conversations are going to be there in the future. So yeah, definitely looking forward to it, and thank you so much, Gomati.
Thank you so much. It was very nice. You are the one who made me, who provoked me to give the answers from my experience. So the questions were really designed well. And thanks a lot. From my heart, thanks.
From our heart as well. Thanks a lot to you, Gomathy. We are sure we'll do another episode again. There is more to learn. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom and your experience.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Meena. Thank you,
Thank you.
Indu.
Thank you.